Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Coming live from Fire of Your Hearts, children of God, and that's you, and that's you, and that's me, and that's me. Hope all be, all be. This is a reproduction. I will not be able to tell you which tribes or who gathered. I have the information on it, but I cannot regurgitate that right now. This is not to make you feel bad, but this is to help you remember that this was the very end of when they knew that the treaties and the unbroken promises, the lies, the tainted signatures, and that they were willing to go along with the first peoples, were willing to try a peaceable way. There had already been a lot of deaths and stuff. What I'm trying to say here is that the retributions, the restitution, the wrongs to be righted start here. This was just a posed photograph. This was just kind of like they put on their beautiful attire, and this was just a posed photograph of kind of like in a form of accepting what had happened. The lands had been taken by a cruelty that there are no words to speak of. Words cannot describe the cruelty. And these things that went wrong, government-wise, this is still on the table with Creator God. So that's why we're going to look at this today, and we're just going to kind of really absorb the fact that this was posed. This was kind of like you could kind of say like just a surrender and a remembrance. And we're going to keep going in 1 Peter. And I'm honestly not going to spend much time on the submission part, because this has been so abused since the beginning of time. These words submission, the use of submission to government, the abuse of this. And honestly, it's such a heated topic, I might just even skip over it. But we're going to try to read through it and do the best we can. So we're at 13 on chapter 2 of 1 Peter. And submission to the government. Submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, whether it be to the king as supreme, or unto governors as unto them that are sent by him, for the punishment of evildoers and for the praise of them that do well. For so is the will of God, that with well-doing ye may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men. Okay, what is that picked up right there? All right, so 14. I was supposed to do more research and present you more material, but I'm not going to. What I'm going to say is go to the Lord and let Him help you decipher it, find your own resources. I'm solid in what the Lord gave me approximately 30-some years ago. So I was about 19, 20 when He confirmed these understandings. Because it was actually something that was keeping me from God and the belief in any form of Christianity. Were the abuse of these things, the submission in marriage, and the abuse of male power dominance, and the abuse of power. So, or unto governors as unto them that are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers. But as we know now, the script is very much shifted. So the evildoers are running the system, and the underdog or the average person is being persecuted. And so when this is occurring, that would mean then that the government's not being run by God, it's being run by the devil. And so then you have to move accordingly in spirit and know the decisions to be made. And most likely, obviously, if the government's being run by demons, how is that going to turn out for any decent people? Not very well. All right, so especially if you let them keep doing it, and then it accumulates and they multiply. They actually multiply overnight. These types of characters, their main motivation is money and power and prestige. And once that hook is hooked, then you can just do about anything, like decimate an entire group who flourished. It was beautiful. There was a lot of, they had their own kinks and things to work out too, but I really believe that God kept the Americans kind of one of the last discoveries, because I think it was kind of like a last test. What is the new settlers going to do here now? Can they share? Can they keep their word? And so that's where we are. And so anything that needs to be fixed, it has to start back before this picture. This would have been rounding out probably the early 1800s. They were around 1887 or 89 this house was built, supposedly. They had not named all the states yet. I believe the Dakotas had not been named yet because it was kind of like their last stand there. They were standing strong still against the government, or trying. And to not completely lose all autonomy and their freedom and love of the land. So the submission to the government is when the government's working accordingly and actually keeping evil at bay and not producing evil. Outside of that, it's kind of like the Wild West if you're with the Lord. Obviously, you want to avoid as much contact with authorities, but if you're on the list, you're a threat in any way, shape, or form, you could potentially expose, or you have seen and you're a witness to many corruptions, you're not going to have a very good life. They'll hunt you down repeatedly, and they will make sure that you cannot keep a job, or they'll put you in such a state that it'll be nearly impossible for you to keep a job. 15. For so is the will of God, that with well-doing you mean put to silence the ignorance of foolish men, as free and not using your liberty for a cloak of maliciousness. But as the servants of God, honor all men, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the king. And since this is so involved, I'm going to stop there. And I can just tell kind of by my tone that when I do these morning studies, and I think I really want to just let it out, but I did that for a while and I don't really see where it was productive. So maybe it was. If this ends up offending anyone that I have this photo, I hope not. I brought it from groups that I bought it from Native American groups, and yeah, I hesitate because of all the name changes and stuff. I mean, give me a break. So as far as I know, I do have some Native in my bloodline, but our bloodline was lied about, and a lot of secrets were hidden, and people had to be hidden out and stuff, from what I can gather from the fragments of stories. But when you're getting those stories from pathological liars, how do you know which story is what? So if the people that raised me were pathological, then how would I know that any historical anything that was true if I didn't hear it out of the horse's mouth myself? So they were real weird about any historical pictures. I never even got to spend any time with the pictures. The property was liquidated so quickly. I mean, it was like ridiculous. Aunt Jessie wasn't even, I don't think she was even 6 feet under, so all the way, and it was just all really disrespectful in every way, shape, and form. To pay student loans was the story I heard on one side of the family. Not my student loans, I didn't really accumulate any, but to speak of, So we're going to stop there, but so if this causes any upset, and then I can get where I don't know if I got this from a trading post or if this was through a separate art group, photography group down, I think, near New Mexico, but I'm honestly not sure. And they have copies of these types of photographs. Submission in business, we'll do one more. Maybe I just need to suffer through it and get to submission to marriage, and we're going to end there. Servants, be subjected to your masters with all fear, not only to the good and gentle, but also to the froward. Harsh. For this is thanksworthy, if a man from conscience toward God endure grief, suffering wrongfully. For what glory is it if when you be buffeted for your faults, you shall take it patiently? But if and when ye do well and suffer for it, ye take it patiently, this is acceptable with God. For even hereunto were ye called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example that ye should follow his steps. Who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth, who when he was reviled not again. When he suffered, he threatened not, but committed himself to him that judgeth righteously, who his own self bare our sins in his own body on the tree, that we being dead to sins should live unto righteousness, by whose stripes ye were healed. For ye were as sheep going astray, but are now returned unto the shepherd and bishop of your souls. Submission in marriage is the beginning of chapter 3. And we are going to stop there. And you all have a great day. And I honestly hope you enjoy this picture. But because I'm such a cruel person, and I want you to feel your emotions, I'm so annoyingly upsetting. I hope that you can capture, this is like a stupid phone videoing a glared up photo. But maybe if we just go in a little more to see the faces, the eyes. Tired. Heartbroken. Or is it just me? I don't know. Just need to understand this photo is more or less for entertainment. They would never have probably had all this on at the same time, but probably knew it was all going to be stolen or taken soon, so less Ruha with it all on. Alright. Have a great day.